When things fall apart, it never feels sudden. It's the small, quiet things that eat away at you until there's nothing left. That night I waited for Samantha to come home. Midnight slipped by and my patience thinned. She told me she was out with friends, that she needed some space. When the door finally creaked open and I saw her, something dropped in my stomach. Her hair was a mess, like she'd been through a storm. Her clothes were torn and hanging off her. And there was one detail I couldn't ignore, a faint, unmistakable wetness on her thighs. I stood still. The air around her carried cologne, not hers, not mine, someone else's scent. I cleaned her up and helped her into bed. "What happened, Sam?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay steady, telling myself there had to be an explanation. Her eyes were glassy and unfocused. She couldn't meet me. Through the haze of alcohol, she mumbled something that made my chest tighten. It didn't mean anything. Just once. "I'm sorry." Those words hit in a way I never imagined. Sorry for what? I wanted to demand, but I couldn't then. Not while she was like that. I swallowed the hurt, tucked her in, and left the room. My heart wanted to cling to hope, but my gut whispered a different truth. Something had happened, and I wasn't sure I could forgive it. Morning brought clarity I wasn't ready for. Samantha woke groaning, clutching her head, trying to stitch together the night. I was already in the kitchen, replaying her slurred words, the scent of cologne, the sight of her. I hadn't slept. I needed answers, and more than that, I needed the truth. She came in wearing the same wrinkled clothes, eyes red and tired. She looked confused until she noticed the photos on the table, proof I couldn't ignore. Close-ups of stains on her dress, a faint handprint along her waist. I'd taken those pictures the night before. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I just had to document what I couldn't yet process. "Do you even remember what you did last night?" I asked, my voice shaking, not with rage, but with a deep ache. Her face crumpled. The panic and guilt were instant. She didn't need me to say more. Samantha broke down right there, shoulders heaving, tears falling. "I'm sorry," she choked. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It was a mistake." Those words cut icy and precise. "A mistake?" I replied, stopping her. "You didn't just stumble into this. You chose it. You went into that bar, got drunk, and let another man sleep with you." She tried to explain, to blame the alcohol, but I wasn't buying it. Her tears felt empty, the apologies hollow. That's when I realized she wasn't only apologizing to me, she was apologizing to herself. And that stung even more. She didn't truly grasp how much she'd damaged us. I couldn't listen any longer. I stood up, looked her in the eye, said, "I need some air," and walked out, leaving her with the aftermath she created. You can't let something like this slide when your trust is shattered. I tried, God knows I tried, to shove it away, but questions gnawed at me. Who was he? Why her? How long had this been going on? Samantha's drunken words were scattered, but one name surfaced: Adam. That was enough to start digging. With social media, piecing things together is easy when you're determined. Adam looked exactly how you'd picture him. Polished, successful, charming. The sort of man who talks his way through any room. Worse was what I found next. Samantha followed him, and he followed her back. This wasn't a random stranger. They knew each other. One detail hit harder than the rest. Adam was married. Not only that, he had kids. His profiles were full of family photos. Vacations, birthday posts, cozy Sunday mornings. All the curated signs of a picture-perfect life. He looked like a man who had everything. When everything unravels, it never feels like a single thunderclap. It's the tiny, quiet things, the edges that fray, until suddenly there's nothing left to hold it together. That night I waited up for Samantha. Midnight came and went and my patience thinned. She said she was out with friends, needed some space. When the door finally opened and I saw her, my stomach dropped. Her hair was a mess, like she'd been through a storm. Her clothes were ripped at the seams, hanging oddly. And there was one detail I couldn't ignore. A faint, unmistakable wetness on her thighs. I stood there. The room smelled faintly of cologne. Not hers, not mine, another man's scent. I got her cleaned up and tucked her into bed. "What happened, Sam?" I asked, forcing calm into my voice, telling myself there had to be an explanation. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused, She couldn't meet me. Through the blur of alcohol, she mumbled something that tightened my chest. It didn't mean anything. Just once. I'm sorry. Those words landed harder than anything I'd felt. Sorry for what? I wanted to shout for answers, but I couldn't do it while she was like that. I swallowed the lump in my throat, folded the blanket around her, and left the room. Part of me clung to hope. My gut whispered a darker truth. Something had happened, and I wasn't sure I could forgive it. Morning brought a clarity I feared. Samantha woke groaning, clutching her head as if the room might split. She moved slowly, trying to stitch together the night. I was already in the kitchen, replaying her slurred words, the cologne, the torn clothes. I hadn't slept. I needed answers, or at least the truth. She came into the kitchen still in the wrinkled outfit from the night before, eyes red and raw. She looked confused until she noticed the photos on the table. There they were, close-ups of the stains on her dress, a faint handprint near her waist. I'd taken those pictures last night. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I needed to record what I couldn't yet process. Do you even remember what you did last night? I asked, my voice shaking. Not with fury, but with a hollow ache. Her face crumpled. Panic and guilt hit her like a wave. She didn't need me to explain. Samantha collapsed into sobs right there, shoulders racking, tears streaming. I'm sorry, she choked. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was a mistake. Her words were sharp and cold. A mistake, I said, cutting her off. You didn't just trip into this. You chose it. You went into that bar, got drunk, and let another man sleep with you. She tried to explain, blaming the state she was in, but I wasn't convinced. Her tears felt empty, her apologies hollow. It hit me then that she wasn't only apologizing to me. She was apologizing to herself. And that hurt the most. She didn't seem to fully grasp the damage she'd done to us, to our marriage. I couldn't listen anymore. I stood up, looked her in the eyes, said, I need some air, and walked out, leaving her with the wreck she'd made. You can't let something like that slide when your trust has been shattered. I tried, God knows I tried, to push it away, but the question's not at me. Who was he? Why her? How long had this been going on? Samantha's drunken confession was scattered, but one name kept surfacing, Adam. That was enough to start digging. With social media, connecting the dots is easy when you're determined. Adam matched the picture you'd imagine. Polished, successful, oozing charm. The sort of man who can talk his way into or out of anything. Worse, Samantha followed him and he followed her back. This wasn't some random stranger. They knew each other. One hit harder than the rest. Adam was married. Not only married, he had kids. His feeds were full of family snapshots. Holidays, birthday celebrations, cozy Sunday mornings, the whole picture-perfect life on display. He looked like a man who had it all. Funny thing is, so did I. And look where that had led me. The more I looked, the more the pieces fit together. I needed to know how deep this went. Samantha's phone became my next target. She didn't know I was watching, but I had to learn the full story. Late one night while she slept, I unlocked her phone. That's when I found the messages. Short, casual, but damning. Adam knew she'd be at the bar that night. Their exchange was light, just enough to set the scene. He'd shown up because he knew she would be there. This wasn't a random meeting. It was arranged. My hands trembled reading those texts. They weren't long, but they didn't have to be. The evidence was clear. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment lapse. It was deliberate. Maybe they hadn't spelled everything out, but both of them knew what they were doing. That night I decided Adam's wife deserved to know the truth about the man she married. She needed to see who he really was. After I'd dealt with that, I would finish what I'd already set in motion with Samantha. The divorce papers were already being prepared, but I needed closure before I could walk away completely. I had a name, evidence, and a plan. This wasn't petty revenge. To me, it was justice. If my marriage was collapsing, his wouldn't escape unmarked. I debated whether it was my place to contact his wife, Charlotte. Some would say it wasn't, but I didn't see it that way. She had a right to know, just as I did. So I reached out carefully, writing a message to say I needed to speak about something important. She replied the same day and we arranged to meet at a quiet downtown cafe. Neutral ground, somewhere emotions might stay contained. Charlotte was already there when I arrived, seated at a small table. Her look was simple, dark hair tied back, an unassuming outfit, an air of nervousness. She seemed confused, maybe a little wary, but she greeted me politely with a faint smile when I introduced myself. When she mentioned Adam, her eyes lit up with the kind of love that made what I had to tell her even harder. I didn't soften the blow. Your husband had an affair with my wife, I said plainly. The polite smile vanished. Disbelief took its place. Her hands trembled as she lowered her cup. For a long moment she said nothing, staring as if the words couldn't possibly be true. I reached into my bag and laid out what I'd gathered. Screenshots of their texts, time-stamped photos from that night, even a secret recording of my wife saying his name. I let her absorb each piece. As she looked through the photos and listened to the recording, her face drained of color. Tears filled her eyes but didn't fall right away. She sat frozen, lips quivering, trying to process it. When she finally spoke, her voice was shaky but firm. "Thank you for telling me." I nodded and stood to leave. There wasn't more to say. Walking out of that cafe, a swirl of feelings washed over me. Anger, relief, guilt. What happened between Adam and Charlotte after that was no longer my concern. My focus had to be reclaiming my life, cutting ties with Samantha and the life we'd built. Back home, everything looked different. The house stopped feeling like home, and Samantha became a hollow version of herself. Guilt weighed on her. I could see it in the slump of her shoulders and the look in her eyes. She tried to fix what she'd broken. First came the tears, every day, pleading with me to listen, to let her explain, to give her another chance. "I'll do anything," she told me. "Counseling, therapy, whatever it takes." She started leaving me little notes. "I love you. I'll never hurt you again. Please don't give up on us." For a while I read them. Then I stopped. She cooked dinner each night, making my favorite dishes, hoping the routine would knit us back together. But I couldn't sit across from her and pretend everything was okay. Every time I pictured her with someone else, the knot in my stomach tightened. The trust we'd shared, respect, faith, it was gone. One evening she confronted me in the living room, face swollen from crying, voice pleading. "Please, Brad," she whispered. "I love you. I'll do anything to fix this." For the first time in days I really looked at her. "I don't think so," I said quietly, firmly. My words hit her like a blow. She collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, clutching my hand as if the pain might stop if she held on harder. Maybe in that moment, she felt a fraction of the anguish she'd caused. For the next few days the house was eerily quiet. No fights, no shouting, just the heavy weight of what she'd done hanging in the air. I had hoped the silence might bring clarity, maybe a path to rebuild. But deep down I knew some things can't be fixed. Those days I tied up loose ends. I reviewed finances, sorted important documents, prepared for the inevitable. I went over every memory, every high and low, trying to judge if it was enough to hold on to. One morning I walked into the living room where Samantha sat with her eyes cast down, searching the floor like the answers might be hiding there. Her tear-swollen gaze met mine. Exhaustion etched across her face. I held the divorce papers in my hand, hesitating only briefly, not because I doubted the choice, but because I knew signing would mark the true end. "You made your choice that night," I said, steady and resolved. "This is mine." I set the papers on the coffee table. Her body froze. Her hands trembled as she reached for them. "Brad, no, please," she whispered, voice breaking. "We can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." She dropped to her knees, clutching my hand, sobbing so hard it seemed she might choke. "Don't do this. Please don't throw us away." But the reality was she had already thrown it away. In one selfish act, she shattered the foundation of trust we'd built. Without trust, what was left? I gently freed my hand, my resolve unshaken. "I can't," I said, shaking my head. "I've tried. I've thought about it every way I can. I just can't see you the same." My voice never rose. It didn't need to. The finality in that quiet tone said everything. I turned and left the room, leaving her collapsed on the floor, sobs echoing behind me. A strange mix of grief and relief settled over me as I walked away. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. It wasn't the ending I wanted, but it was the one I needed. Some wounds are too deep to heal. It's odd how the end of something that once meant everything can feel so hollow. Yet that became my reality. I left that marriage a free man, though freedom looked different than I'd imagined. For weeks I couldn't face our bedroom. Her scent lingered in the linens and brought back things I didn't want to relive. I slept on the couch. Slowly, though, things shifted. I stopped fixating on empty spaces and started imagining new possibilities. I replaced furniture, rearranged the living room, painted the walls. It was my way of reclaiming the space and saying this is mine now. I wasn't just restoring a house, I was rebuilding myself. The cracks and scars remained, and they twinged sometimes, but the ache eased over time. In their place I found something I hadn't felt in years, a calm peace. As for Samantha, I don't know where life took her. Once the papers were signed, we cut off contact. I heard snippets later about how she struggled to move on. People say time heals everything. I don't think it erases pain. It teaches you how to live with it, how to grow around it. For me, that meant learning to be okay with solitude. I'd rather spend my days in quiet contentment than trapped in a marriage shadowed by betrayal. I hope Samantha learns to live with her choices, not for my sake, but for hers. In the end, we both lost something. I lost a wife I thought I knew, and she lost the life we built together. The difference is I gained something more valuable. I found myself, and that was worth every painful step. So if you liked today's story, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon.